Hi everybody, this is Jake Johnston. Welcome to Jake Showcase. I do videos on Wednesdays. Today I'm going to read you a piece which I have as an ode to my father. It's called Simple Leather Boots. Simple leather boots. It was the last day of winter. Well, not really. That technically had already well passed. In Canada, where the coldness is so deep, so dark, so long, many question if winter's end will ever come every year. We were well into spring and I still wore 10 layers and could not feel my feet. It was especially cold this year. Well, then again, some called this year the polar vortex, others the Arctic death grip. But for me, in my on-foot life experience, it was just another absolutely wretched winter in Canada. But with all that said, it was the final day that the high temperature would be below zero this year. Positive high temperatures going forward were forecasted, so I called this the last day of winter. As I trudged towards my home, or my parents' home, I walked along the crunching snow, solid and thick to the ground, with light flakes still randomly floating down. No one was out in the streets, no dared. Burned by the very long winter, all humans had given up long, long ago to go outside. I could see it very far away down the street. It was simply endless piles of snow. As I looked way down the road still further than the train tracks at the far end of my parents' block, I thought I saw one brown dot amidst the sheer whiteness that I never saw before, but wasn't sure. As I slowly trudged forward, inching towards my parents' house, my mission was to borrow the car to head to the shoe store. I had recently taken up a job which required steel-toed boots. Not a laborer, I had never done any trade. My university degree, office, and banking experience made me well out of my natural zone for this one job I had obtained after over a year of unemployment in the worst unemployment rate city in Canada. The steel-toed boots I had bought were just slightly small and had caused immense swelling and pain in my foot in the few weeks I had had them. I got closer and thought that brown dot looked like they were near my parents' house. It was a person. Couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. Still wasn't sure. Nothing else was moving around. It was about rush hour, but people in my poor neighborhood either didn't have jobs or had chosen to drive down other streets because our street was one of the last to get plowed by the city. So this moving brown dot was the only thing moving in the distance, which made it interesting to me. I crossed the tracks and moved closer and closer, trying to guess who it might be. They looked like they may have been standing in front of my folks' house. My mom was friendly with many of the neighbors. Likely just a random person was my guess. But as I got closer, I noticed they would bob back and forth towards the houses. Who was that? Another puff of the cigarette. The fire from the ember, somehow I was sure it kept me warm. Only deep holes in the winter. But that dot, standing, moving, forwards, backwards, who was that? And then I realized it was my father. I thought to myself, now there's a Trojan warrior. My father was taking out the trash. Well, no, he was taking out the trash and the neighbor woman's trash and the other two neighbor woman's trash as well. He had been doing this for well over 30 years. He was looking at the house, looking at the neighbors' houses, making sure everything was in working order for all. My father had worked for over 30 years for the same location for the church as their maintenance man. He biked every day across the city for 30 years, no matter the weather. He had raised a family with 9 members, and he had done a stunning job. His house was paid for, and he made the next step up from the toilet cleaner's salary. He always talked about consistency. And there he was, past retirement age, taking out the garbage, still. As I got closer, he saw me and stopped. I wore an eccentric, bright red scarf. Even though I was the oldest of his children, I was the one who had some deep, dark issues in the past. At one point, the clear black sheep. But while still shaking it, it was clear I was on the mend. I was speeding up. I wanted to help with the garbage once I realized what he was doing. His face looked burned from the cold. He had overcome cancer twice, and his thinning gray hair showed his continued aging. I asked, "How was the day?" He said, "Good day." I asked if I could help with the garbage. He said, "No, that's all right. Almost done." This man had just worked all day. He had biked home in the snow at the end of the record-breaking Canadian winter, and then was taking out the garbage for him, his two neighbors' garbage, placing them on top of large snowbanks, and wanted to save me from ripping out the garbage cans which were iced into the ground. Moments later I was inside. I had ripped my small-fitting steel boots to see if my small toe was officially broken after weeks of wear. It really hurt. He came in. I asked him to take a look. He said it looked fine after looking at it closely. I told him my problem. He knew I wasn't a laborer, but he knew I was trying. I finally had a job and was trying my version of a trade, opening garbage bags and unloading furniture, far too heavy for my meek frame. He was a tradesman. He had experience in almost every trade. He was Mr. Fix-It for the large seminary, and he was a Mr. Fix-It for the large seminary. He went upstairs and came back down with his old boots from the closet. They were steel-toed, leather, and worn. His feet were slightly bigger than mine, and the boots slightly bigger too. He gave them to me. The boots were just wider by enough to ease the toe pain almost instantly. A rip in the back verified their age. They may have been 1 or more decades old. He solved my problem. No money needed, no trip, no fittings, no sales pitches. Simple leather boots? Nothing so simple as the perfect fit. Consistency, giving, helpfulness, and love. This defined my father. In the past, I wanted to be nothing like my father. I wanted so much more, I thought. But I recognize now, I instead do aspire to be just like him, and more importantly, the way he does it. My father lives the message every day. Thanks for watching.